Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here. My name is Wana Oprea. I'm a youth leader for World Women Foundation, and I'm very happy to introduce to you the next panel. This panel is called Women in Tech, the Future of Work and Equality Moonshot, from Disruption to Design. This panel will be moderated by Dr. Chris LUEBKEMAN, Head of Strategic Foresight Hub, ITH Zürich. Thank you.
Very welcome.
And enjoy.
Thank you very, very much. And welcome, everybody, and thank you for choosing to be here with us. My name is Chris LUEBKEMAN, and I have the pleasure and the privilege of being the head of the Strategic Foresight Hub at the ETH in Zurich, which, for those who don't know, it's one of the top 10 universities in the world, the most interesting university you have never heard of. And my job is to help make sure it stays in the top 10 over the next 10 to 20 years. I'd like to have one comment before we go. You know, I found the previous panel fascinating. For me personally, I already learned about heart attacks as different manifestations for men and women, which I didn't know. So I'm grateful for learning that, because women are half of my life as well. So I think that's really, really wonderful. And I wish more men knew this. They're the ones who need to hear it too, not just us in the room. So today, our topic, future of work and the equity moonshot. The term moonshot is a real interesting word. It reminds us that real progress does not come from incremental change alone, but from bold ambition, serious systemic thinking, and courage to rethink how, in this case, work is designed, governed, and experienced. As AI, automation, and platform economies reshape labor markets, we face together a very critical question. Will the future of work deepen existing inequalities, or can we intentionally design it to expand opportunity, inclusion, and human potential? It's been a long day already. My fourth one. So it's really, I am so pleased to be here with these three amazing humans. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves, because they can do a much better job of that than I can. And so to my far right, AYUMI.
Hello.
Go for it.
Go for it.
What does everybody in the room need to know about you that's relevant for today's conversation?
Well, lots of things, especially that I'm the founder and the president of Women in Tech Global. And we're all here because we know that we need more women in technology. We need more women on decision-leading positions. And we need more feminine and innovation and creativity everywhere.
Here,
so
here.
This is why I'm here with Women in Tech.
Yes. Great. Thank you. And next to you is Matt in the middle. Same question to you. What's relevant about you for today's conversation?
All right. Well, thanks, Dr. Chris, for a warm welcome. I'm Matt Madrigal.
Just Chris.
I like Dr. Chris, though. Okay. Anyway, okay. Dr. Chris.
All right.
Matt Madrigal. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Pinterest. What's relevant for this conversation is the best engineer in the family is my 22-year-old oldest daughter, Lily. So I have a 22-year-old and a 17-year-old daughter. So this is not just relevant to our business, but me personally as a dad.
Awesome. I really appreciate that. That's beautiful. And GUDELA, a colleague from the ETH, what does everybody else in the world need to know about you that's relevant for today's conversation?
Okay. I think mostly that I'm a work and organization psychologist, and I chose very deliberately to go into whatever the bears, the tigers kind of room of lots of engineers, because I feel technology changes work. And if I want to make work better for people, for women, but also for men, for everyone, then I need to talk to these people.
Yeah, this is really wonderful, because you've seen many waves of technology innovation and technology introduction, right? This is what's interesting to me. And Matt is the CTO of Pinterest. It's quite interesting to hear from you. But I'm going to start with our wonderful colleague far over here. Now, in our prep chat,
Yes.
you said,
Yes.
yes, you said something which I found quite fascinating, and sort of contrary to what many seem to say. And it says you said that AI is going to be wonderful for women to thrive. Tell us about this.
Absolutely. Well, we can always see the glass half empty or half full, and I always say half full because I'm positive in nature. But I really do think that AI is going to be wonderful. It is being wonderful right now because it gives women time, gives women back time, and gives women back the tools. And also the tools to become more entrepreneurs. And the example I was giving you in our talk was, in Africa, over half, so 56%, I think, of the entrepreneurs are women. And I think it's the only place in the world, the only region in the world where we have more women entrepreneurs than men. But they are small entrepreneurs. That means that the companies are quite micro companies, 1, 2, less than 5 people. And giving them the chance to have AI, you can have a whole team, right? So they can also go to market much faster. They can try things much faster. They need to have less money to start a company. You can have your website, and you can have your business unit, and you can have the decks done, and so many things you can do with AI just with a woman by herself. The other thing is giving back time. So that the women can concentrate on real things, relationships, the family, and even if they have the family, so many things they care about, doing their sport, doing their creativity, doing their leisure. Time is something we can't buy, So if you have an AI to give those tools and to give that power for women to be able to thrive, to build their companies, to be independent, to make money, to be independent financially, I think this is the best possible thing ever.
That's great. That's really great. I want to ask the room, how many of you see this? How many of you agree with this? How many of you are a bit skeptical? A few. So it's overwhelming agreeing to that. That's quite fascinating. So, Matt, I know you told me in our prep talk that a very large percentage of your participants in Pinterest, in the platform, are female. Tell me about that and how you see this question of women in Pinterest.
Yeah, well, first of all, I totally agree with what you said. I think this is the best time ever for women to come into technology across many domains, whether you want to be a product manager, maybe a designer, or an engineer, because I think with the tooling available now, if you have an idea, you can actually build it yourself. You don't necessarily have to have a computer science degree, because and I think that lowers a lot of the barriers. And for us at Pinterest, we have our user base is almost 2/3 women, and so I always have the aspiration where the teams that build the products have to reflect their users, and so that's a big emphasis for us as we think about scaling our teams not only globally but with an emphasis on hiring great women, great AI talent into the organization.
Okay, and GUDELA, you've seen multiple waves of this. This has been your passion, is to understand the evolution of work. So how do you see this when we hear this is going to be a bonanza? What do you think?
Maybe I'm a little bit more critical about that.
Well, yeah.
But I think on the positive side, I mean, we keep talking about, I mean, kind of skills that women tend to have more than men, and that they hopefully, I mean, keep having them. And I think that those skills are actually a lot of the skills we also say cannot be automated, because it's more about emotional skills. It's about emotional skills. It's about, we heard earlier, which I loved, I mean, tell a woman somebody and then something and then the world will know it, right? So we are good in communications and in relationship building. And I think this is all stuff that we know is much harder to have technology do, but technology obviously can help us do it. So in that sense, I think there is really opportunities. Another opportunity to me is also that women tend to be still, I think, in lower skilled work a lot. And if tools are used right, then you can help women upskill. And I mean, you mentioned that, I think, a little bit also. I mean, we've done research around nurses, for instance, and how if they are supported by tools that they can, I mean, start doing stuff where medical doctors might say, no, nurse can never do that. So, I mean, maybe finally hierarchies in healthcare will change a little bit. So, yeah, I'll just leave it at that for the moment.
Okay, that's really good. So I hear that. And I was at a breakfast this morning and heard an executive from one of the global consultancies saying, a woman was saying, she now, through AI, feels much happier at work because her tasks, which used to be tedious, go by much quicker. So now she's doing more art, more music, and just is basically a happier human.
Absolutely.
So it sort of confirmed what you said this morning, and I'm not sure. How many of you in here are using AI right now? And how many of you code with AI? Just a few fewer, yeah. How many of you consider yourself experts in AI? Ooh, novices? That's interesting. It's an interesting smattering to see how that goes and where it goes. And so I want to stay with you. I mean, you're working a PhD right now.
Yes.
And you were describing how you're looking at gender bias in the algorithms. So tell us a little bit about that and what you're seeing and what you're finding.
So as part of my doctoral research, I did a paper on, it was a quantitative paper for gender bias in AI on large language models, where we examined different large, ChatGPT, Gemini, I can say the names, Claude, and even GenSpark. And we prompted 10 very, very simple questions and analyzed the answers. So, for example, 10 questions. So, what does describe a nurse taking care of a patient, for example? Or what does a CEO look like? I must say this it was a year ago, so the algorithms change very quickly. So the result I'm going to be giving are those from a year ago. And we did that, so for each one, we did 50 times the questions, for the same question 50 times, so that we can analyze the different answers. And we did it across, so these 10 questions 50 times, and we did it across different days. And we also did it over 5 different languages to see if there was a change in the results according to the language. So we use English as a neutral language, like what does the CEO look like? And then we put languages like Portuguese, Russian, Arabic, German, which are gendered languages, right? So they've got male or female. And so for the, we found there was 75% of bias for everything that was powerful positions to men. And some of them, for example, for what does a nurse look like or describe a nurse taking care of a patient, 100% across all languages and across all of the models, it was depicted as a woman. Every single time, 100%. That means that for all the caregiving, jobs and activities, women are there. For the very high political, high power, also mostly biased by men. And then what I did find interesting is that for science doctors, it was more biased for women.
Yay!
Yay! That was the only one. That was the only one. But once again, those were the results of about 1 year ago. And also gendered languages, they have much more bias than things. And the language that had most bias, I think it was Russian.
I'm not quite sure if I should comment on that. That's sort of so fascinating. What for me would be quite interesting if we did repeat that experiment today, because we know they're being trained so fast. This is like 27 generations in a year or something like that. I'm not sure. And I know, Matt, you've mentioned 70% of your user base, or probably 2/3 approximately. Is so. How do you see the gender bias in what you're doing with Pinterest? Well, with the algorithmic side, like the tech side, not necessarily the user side.
Yeah, I think if you take a step back and look at where you see AI manifest itself in maybe not so positive a way, you see a lot of that in social media today, where a lot of the platforms are much more tuned for attention, time on site, which is not great for mental health. And so at Pinterest, we take a different approach, which is we tune for positivity. And we build our models with safety first in mind. So that's
what do you mean you tune for positivity?
Yeah.
That sounds cool, but what is it?
Yeah, well, I think the simplest way I can say this is one of the best compliments I've ever received from one of our Pinterest users was a Gen Z user. And she told me, you know what, Pinterest just gets me. And I go to Pinterest because it's my oasis away from the toxicity of social media. And so when you come to the platform, you will see inspirational content. We have, the reason why we build our own models and tune open source models is because we have more fine-tuned controls of the types of content that we put in front of our users. And so we're not optimizing for time on site. We're optimizing for helping our users take action in real life, whether it's maybe planning like a home office redesign or the boots I'm wearing here in Davos. So these are all things that are common use cases why people come to Pinterest.
Okay, I like that's interesting. Let me ask here, how many of you have a Pinterest account? All right, let me ask you.
I like seeing that.
How many of you don't?
All right, we'll talk after.
There's still time for you. Yeah, there's still. It was for me when I was talking to Matt as sort of a prep for today's call. I kind of remembered I had to ask him, what does Pinterest do? And I said, oh yeah. I remember I remodeled my house, and I worked on that. Like I actually went back and I was collecting images from my kitchen and from my bathroom. So but this was a while ago, and so I have been on there, and it was interesting to me how wonderful it was. And then I got sucked into it again, looking just recently, but it was wonderful. It was a good.
It was positive, right?
Yeah. It was
okay.
Good.
But it's true. I never thought of it that way. That it was a positive thing. But it is true. I really enjoy Pinterest.
Yeah.
It's
So
very
like to hear that.
positive.
Yeah, okay, enough on the Pinterest advertisement there. Okay, we'll stop on that one.
No, there isn't. No, there
we keep
isn't.
going with this. We
No. We're gonna stop on it for a minute because, okay. But in all seriousness, what's interesting is on this side of the gender bias and you're almost biasing towards positivity, and I'd like to come to GUDELA when we're thinking about the future of work, and bias and how to counter bias. What do you see, and how can you give us some ideas about things that one can be doing to counter bias? Have you've seen that has been working or has not worked?
Okay. I mean, first of all, I think we will never get rid of biases. I mean, they're with us. I mean, they're part of how we work as humans. I mean, we have all sorts of preconceived notions about all sorts of things. And one really also has to think about that overall we live reasonably well with that. So, I mean, we usually talk about stereotypes being a bad thing. I mean, they are in many ways, but at the same time, I mean, when you look at what's the function actually of that is, I mean, to try and orient ourselves in the world fast. And I mean, we might do this wrongly or rightly so, but I mean, it's not only, otherwise it wouldn't be there. I mean, evolutionary, we wouldn't have stereotypes if stereotypes wouldn't help. I mean, for better or for worse, right? So that's, I think, the first thing. I mean, it's not about unbias. I think it's what you can do is just become much more aware of your own biases and have systems in place that confront you with your own biases. And in that sense, I think actually all the AI systems, when we always say they're no good because they're biased, right? I mean, they learn on historical data, so they learn our biases. But then the question is, how do we actually use them? And I mean, a lot of times people kind of juxtapose accuracy and fairness. And then usually it's the question, for instance, do you put gender in a system that will select people for something, right, where we know, or race or whatever, right? But if you were to use those systems to confront ourselves with our own history, that's actually very good, right? I mean, we wouldn't then afterwards have the system used to select who gets a loan or who gets a job or who gets parole, right? But to use very deliberately these systems to put a mirror in front of us could be very good. But I think currently, I guess systems aren't really used in this way. But I think this whole kind of accuracy fairness discussion that I think we still have around explainable AI, whatever, I think that should be shifted really around what is the purposes and how can we, what tools can we use to learn, be aware of and learn from our own biases and
Okay, so what do we see? I want a slight shift. I want to build on that one and say, okay, so what do we see as the greatest opportunity between our equity ambitions and everyday organizational reality? Right, because we can make a long list of barriers, but where are the opportunities do you see in your parsing in your work to really help us get to the launch pad with the Moonshot?
You're asking me.
I'm asking all of you, all three of you. Don't look at me with those big deer eyes. You know, come on now. This is like the crux of the question. What can we be doing to get the next steps going and continue to build momentum, right? Especially in this time of AI. So who's gonna go on this one?
I can start.
Try it, yes. They both have breathed a sigh of relief for a moment. There we go.
No, because I mean, overall, I think, and that really goes to a very macro level, that, I mean, whatever I mean, starting with the ILO, starting with labor unions, starting with, I mean, what we fought for workers' rights is in peril right now, I think. So with AI and with anything else, I mean, it's really about, I mean, the ILO is called for the new social contract, whatever exactly that will be. But in the end, this is, I think, what needs to be done.
Okay, there's one.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think that what makes AI at this time, specifically with agents, for example, agents can automate away a lot of the maybe more necessary but mundane tasks that then allow employees, let's say women engineers in this case, to take on bigger, more impactful work. And to me, that's the unlock. And I also think too, just having this discussion is that openly speaking about biases and challenges in the current systems, I think are really important to be mindful of. I'll just tell you quickly, when my daughter went in the workplace as a software engineer, I told her some of the things you have to be mindful of. When you're in a code review, you may be mansplaining some things. Here's how I would handle it. And sorry, like just to be real, right? And yeah, well, sorry, right? Is there some irony in that? I was just trying to get her prepared. And I think a lot of it, though, is like just being able to have the real discussions, I think allows us then to make progress.
That's a good one, too. Okay, I've got two.
So I think we need to use AI, continue in developing, of course, but always be careful at the same time. Because I think people are getting more and more lonely. Today, if you're going to go to your doctor appointment, you used to call, have a rendezvous. And now you have to, fill up a form. And then when you go, you just have chatbots. Doctors now, they just do everything also through many doctors now in France, we can do it online. And it's also like an AI that's doing. So I think people are getting lonely and lonely and lonely. And also using AI so that you can have more time, that's one thing, so that you can have human relationships afterwards. If it continues, I think the psychological stress that is being formed right now. I was speaking yesterday with Professor Johannes. He's a professor in psychology and AI at Stanford and in INSEAD in France. He's saying it's augmenting enormously because people are isolating themselves. And he even said, it was almost a joke, he said, if you want to have grandchildren for the youth today, you better, do something else. Otherwise, you're not gonna have people getting lonely. And then so AI doing all the tasks for you is removing that human relationship, and we're all animals, social animals, that we need so more today.
So that's an interesting thing to be if we think about it and are aware of it, we can avoid that potentially, right? Because we heard also from others and you mentioned that AI can, and Matt just said it, take away some of the mundane tasks to give us more time to do perhaps more of these human, meaningful tasks, meaningful opportunities, right? So you have to think about in between there,
Yeah. Do you mind if I jump in there, Dr. Chris?
Do I have a choice?
No.
Okay. Go for it.
Yeah. The one thing I want to, because one thing you sparked from even our breakfast this morning was, what does the future of work look like for young people? And I want to hit upon this very directly, because the point of view that I have, and I talked to a couple other CTOs who have here, which is, it's a tough job market for young people coming out of college, but I take the perspective of, we got to hire more AI native engineers and folks out of college. And so for Pinterest, for us, we will hire the highest percentage of both interns and new college grads than we ever have before, because they're AI native. They've grown up with these tools, whereas some of us who've learned on other tools, you have to relearn. And so that's something that I think is cause for optimism, in my opinion, for a lot of the young folks.
I totally hear you. I'm a dial phone native.
And I can also.
Are you a dial phone native too?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, just all right.
I actually used to just shout.
But not at me.
Okay. Yes, and then I get another question.
No, I was just, this whole thing about, what will AI, or is AI, or actually other technologies for that matter, used for? And I guess we always say it's for the mundane tasks, right? But some of those mundane tasks can actually at the same time being these relational bits and pieces, right?
Yeah.
That you automate away. I mean, that is kind
This
of
is
the
what I was
classic,
saying too, yeah.
classic thing about the post person coming, right? And now they're just efficiency driven. I mean, they don't talk to anyone anymore. So yes, I can be lonely, and I used to talk to the post person, and now I don't anymore, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So you make some of the work actually more meaningless through that also. So I think that, I mean, being more careful about what mundane actually means and what efficiency and then effectiveness means, I think is very, very important in making these kinds of decisions.
That's a really, really, really good point, especially when we're thinking about upskilling. And that's what I want to come to right now. We think about what does it mean to upskill, and how are we going to be collectively upskilling in this domain. So how do you see upskilling? And I'll start with you, AYUMI. How are we going to go about this, and how do you see this?
Well, right now with Women in Tech, for example, we give digital literacy classes, so AI digital literacy, to mostly to the women all around the world, but very focused on the global South, because we think that Africa, there's so much talent. And I've got also, where's Melissa? So here she is. So she's a director for Africa for Women in Tech. And so she could even tell us, they do wonderful work, upskilling the girls, the women in South Africa. We have a learning center we're having one in Johannesburg, but we have one in Cape Town. Also two in Burundi. And so I think we have already taught more than 25,000 women.
Fantastic.
How to use AI so that they can use it for business and that they can, for anything, what they want to do. But yeah, we're doing that. So that's on the one side, really on the very low level, I'd say, on the starting level. And then I have another organization, and it's called the Tech Diplomacy Global Institute. And on that side, we are really looking on upskilling diplomats and also CEOs and leadership positions on AI governance, because there is about $2.8 trillion per year that is lost just in fragmentation across the world with the different regulations. So I think we have to be aware also on regulations, how to build together, and what does that mean as well. So for the policymakers, for the leaders, for the diplomats, for government, and also from the public and private sector. So there are different levels of upskilling, of building not only capacity but also capability.
Great, thank you, Matt. How about you guys? So I was on another panel where one of the participants said we are going to mandate that everybody in our company must upskill with AI. Otherwise, they do it or they're out.
Well, I don't know if the do it or they out, that seems pretty. I don't know the context of that discussion, but I do think you have to be intentional about the upskilling. I think you have to state goals. And you also have to, show right now, I think when you talk about upskilling and how AI can help you in your role, so many people think, well, AI is going to take my role. And that, I don't look at it that way at all. And that's where I think the upskilling, and you have to be intentional about it, whether it's providing the right tools, and then also showing how it, being mindful of the types of tasks, but can free up time for you to do other things too. So I think, again, both intentional, but then also reassuring of this is what it's going to get you.
Yeah. So for me, I'm personally thinking about AI as a team member, right?
Yeah.
He or she or they or it, whatever you want to call it, they're with me in the team.
That's right.
Right. And that's how in my mental map. So what about you, GUDELA? How do you see this topic?
I think, again, I go back maybe a little bit, and I find with a lot of IT, it has been kind of weird about skilling, because we get all these tools, we get no training whatsoever. And we get cars and we need a driver's license, right? We don't need an AI license. We don't need an internet license. We don't learn anything. I was kind of assumed that somehow we just kind of do it. And I'm always amazed, really, at computer scientists, how they manage that all these absolutely impossible users, that the systems are as safe as they are. Because so, I think, the message then to me is more, to be more aware of where does it actually need maybe more kind of formal training, where you clearly also tell people you get time for this. you get resources for this. This is not something you kind of do on your own with your e-learning, actually AI-driven e-learning kind of thing, and we assume that you will do this in your free time kind of thing, right? So if upskilling is meant seriously, then this needs to be an investment, and companies need to show that they're willing to make that investment.
Excellent. So
I think, sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
I think if a company...
No fist fighting, though.
Yeah, no. Instead of telling them, giving them courses on AI, it's more on the mindset, telling why they should do that, right? On them being curious, on explaining how they're going to be able to, you know, to have so many positive feedbacks and gain time and improve, and why it's important for them to be upskilled every time. And then they can do it themselves. You know, you can ask AI, okay, AI, I don't know how to use it. How do I do it? So you don't need real courses. Sometimes I just prompt and I said, oh shit, that was not a good prompt. How can I do that better? Propose a better prompt. So you self-taught, you teach yourself with AI, and AI, it's an ongoing system. But then you have to realize why you're doing it. So if people tell you, it's like parents and kids, you know. If the parents tell the kids, you have to do this, and they say, oh shit, I don't want to do that. But if they realize it's going to be for their good, whatever, and they enjoy it.
Can I just jump in there? I mean, to me, it's not a matter of you have to do it necessarily, but it's about I value that you do it. And that's the point. Right? I mean, to give people time to do it, to not expect them to, I mean, pick their own resources, right?
Yes.
And maybe they do it on their own, maybe they do it with a friend or whatever, but to just say, this is valuable to the company that you learn this. And that to me is the important message, not in the sense of I force this thing on you, but in fact, I mean, companies do, right? But they force it and then give no time. And that's the worst, right? Because then people resent it. Right?
Yeah. Can I jump in real quick, Dr. Chris?
Of course.
All right. I'm 2 for 2 for those keeping score. No. I'll say what we found has worked at Pinterest is we actually have a top level mandate. So I co-chair our AI upskilling program with our chief people officer, because we know it's a balance of both providing the skills, the training, and then also more of the taking our employee base along for the journey. Why this is so important, and the benefits we've seen in different use cases, like whether it's through engineering or other use cases. So I think that's the piece that's allowed us to be successful thus far.
Thank you. And I think it's important that it comes from the top, and this also. So 2 things. I'm going to ask you a final question, because then I'm going to get yelled at because we have to end soon. I think it's very important that when we're doing this, all of us, if it doesn't work the first time, not to say, oh, that sucks, we're not going to use that again. And this is where very often you have to know that you can ask it to help me be better. And I think that's a really important little barrier, that it doesn't get rejected out of hand, that it needs to be improved. It's like a terrible teacher versus a really good teacher. A terrible teacher, you did terrible. A good teacher said, let's do it again. What question should I have asked you that relates to our topic, the future work and the equity moonshot? What is the question I should have asked you I didn't ask you? So I'm going to start with you.
Oh my God, what question you should have asked me? Well, you should have asked me how my Davos is going. I don't know.
Okay. How's your Davos going?
Oh, it's going great. It's going great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Matt, is there a question I should have asked you I didn't ask?
I think you did a great job, Dr. Chris. But maybe when we talk about AI, I think one of my learnings here from Davos is just really needing to understand, or at least discuss, the nuance of how AI can help, and using examples, because so much of the discussion is quite binary. In reality, it's not binary. It's not always good. It's not always bad. I think it's very use case specific, and we have to talk about the nuance if we want to implement this in a good way.
Great. Thank you. GUDELA, what should I have asked you I didn't ask you?
How AI will get better?
GUDELA, how's AI going to get better?
By having women develop it.
Amen. Here you go. Here you go. Yes. There you go. And on that note, I'd like to just a very short, I think 100% yes, everyone in the room agrees, and myself as well. For me, there's a mindset, skill set, and tool set. From what I've heard this a couple of times with AIs, the mindset to explore, the mindset to go for it, the mindset to help others, and really to do that. Then there's a skill set Are you a vibe coder, or are you just, how do you learn how to prompt? There is a skill set which we need to learn. We had to learn how to do each one of these tools. And the final is that tool set, and how has it become appropriate for each one of our lives? What are the right tools at the right time, and be always willing to learn, find, explore, know that we're never done learning, to be insanely curious. Yes. And that to me is really the key. So I'd like to thank very much Women in Tech for inviting me to have the privilege of hosting this panel, and I want to thank you, an amazing panel. Let's give them a nice round of applause. And with that, I'd like to say, please drink lots of water. You are at altitude, right? Lots of water, drink water, eat an apple, and walk a lot. So thank you, everybody.
Tropics here, so.
Yeah. It's really crazy. So, all right, everybody, have a wonderful day.
All right, thank you.